highway. Well, this is quite unexpected of me, isn't it? I'll start this off by saying that this review came from the help of the movie's North American distributor, 11 Arts. Thanks for the screener, but don't think that'll mean I'll go easy on the film. Anyways, back onto the subject at hand. What is it that I have in front of me? Well, it seems like a Japanese animated feature that involves penguins. Through my research, there's not a lot mentioned about the film other than that it's based on a 2010 book of the same name by Tomihiko Morimi. Other than that, it's spun off a manga and this movie from Studio Colorido, both in 2018, and that's all I could gather. So it's safe to say that I am going in fresh without knowing what to expect on this one. Then again, I'm always up for the challenge. I reviewed anime movies before, and I've also reviewed animated penguin movies, so combining the two should be no problem for me. So now that we'll be marching once again with more penguins, will a Japanese twist give new life and wonder to the winged creatures? Or will they feel as annoying when they had pebbles and happy feet? Let's find out. The story. At first, it would seem like it could be just a slice-of-life story. Not surprising, as they are common in Japanese animated features, and this one starts off showing the life of a boy who spends his time doing research on everything he sees. However, when actually watching this, the film reveals that there is so much more going on in this little Japanese suburb. It's actually all part of a strange phenomenon that's far bigger than anyone could imagine. The true story of Penguin Highway centers on a series of mysteries happening around the main character, Aoyama, including a giant floating ball of water in the middle of a field, and another where a woman he regularly visits has the ability of summoning penguins by throwing random objects. Yes, people, we went from dancing penguins to surfing penguins to penguins imitating wrestling stars to penguins that were more from things that a lady throws like it's a freaking Pokeball. Even by cartoon standards, we went through quite an escalation. But back onto the story, the film was written where it has a strong blend between the scientific and the emotional. The science part is what helps solve the mystery in a way that can be best described as comprehensively complex. The ideas and theories that it would bring up are the kind of subjects that would be at a university level of science. Like, we're talking about science that Stephen Hawking would usually study. And yet, while the subject seems complicated, the movie explains in a way that is both understandable and intelligent to describe the events that are happening. As for the emotional part, that would be about Aoyama, as it also contains a coming-of-age plot that shows how even if he is a boy genius that acts completely mature, he still has a lot to learn and understand what it means to grow up. This allows it to have the audiences emotionally invested in the feature to see not only the mystery to be solved, but to also see Aoyama grow as a character. If I do have to bring up a criticism with this, it would have to be that some parts of the mystery are pretty easy to solve, resulting in the film to be a little bit predictable. It may not sound that bad, but it does feel quite problematic when the viewer is able to pick up on something much quicker than Aoyama can. I mean, seriously, I thought the kid is supposed to be the genius around here, you know what I mean? But even at that, it still doesn't change how the movie is still well executed, and it cleverly doesn't solve everything so that it leaves the ending to be a bit more open to what could happen after the movie. It's not a story that anyone would first expect from this feature, but it certainly does go into quite an adventure. The animation. Maybe more so than the writing, the animation's job in the film is to make the transition from being realistic to going into the realm of the abstract. But for the most part, it keeps itself down to earth. When entering upon the feature, it is all set in a modern Japanese suburban town where the colors are toned down to express a calm and familiar feeling of home, and the backgrounds are often detailed with a strong use of lighting to give the place a lot of depth. It also presents some impressive imagery to give some scenes great-looking views, like when the characters would go into the forest or the field with the giant water ball. As for the character designs, they go a little simpler with the Japanese look, with minimal use of colors and even shadows, and emphasizing more how they were drawn, like really let the lines express how they feel. However, these notes are subtle, as they still remain anatomically correct. This is also added how the character animation keeps itself realistic as well, yet rarely would there be scenes that would require having the people do any broad or intense movements. For the most part, they are very reserved and, again, would rely on subtlety to present their emotions. While it is well crafted and tranquil, I can understand how it might be viewed as something that isn't visually memorable. I mean, it depicts the ordinary so well that it would be tough to remember one visual element from this. That is where the penguins come in. The unusual elements are what help elevate the movie's creativity, and as the film progresses, it gradually rejects reality to really play around with the imagination with all the theories it would uncover with the penguins. Not to mention also incorporating some interesting use of CGI that doesn't feel out of place from its visual environment, like how it was used for the water or for simple things like the doors. As a result, the animation carries the film to start off with a relatable and common area, and later go towards the surrealistically whimsy in order to give the movie a fresh sense of beautifully made wonder. The characters. Technically, there are very few characters worth noting in this feature. You got the two main characters and a handful of others that would accompany them, and that's it. However, there is still a lot to unpack with these people. Starting with Aoyama, he's honestly on the edge of feeling like an unrealistic character, like the kind that is impossible to imagine that a kid like this could ever exist. He's supposed to be a genius to the point that he has his life figured out and is even counting the days until he is officially an adult. During 95% of the movie, he is completely emotionless by mainly focusing on his research and would act like he's an expert scientist that's smarter than anyone in the room. He is just a few steps away from being such a hateable character, but somehow managed to get himself out of it right at the last second. Thankfully, the movie does give a good explanation onto why he behaves that way and doesn't forget that he is still a kid. While he mostly expresses as much emotions as a rock, he does so because he tries to contain his feelings in order to look smarter. He wants to react logically instead of reacting emotionally, and it can happen when he fails to hold back some tears. Also, as a kid, he has some strange interests that not even he can comprehend that's actually just part of growing up, which is represented by his fascination of boobs, especially the ones from the lady he would hang out with. But to be honest, I don't blame him. They're actually really nice and she is very attractive. Anyways, let's actually talk about that girl, who is only referred to as Lady. Unlike Aoyama, she has a more eccentric and friendly personality where she enjoys her time with the kid by playing chess or sometimes helping out on his experiments. But with her ability to summon penguins, she would slowly discover who she really is alongside everyone else, and how she might play a bigger role in the mystery. As for the others, again, there isn't a lot about them and they don't get a lot of focus, but they are a good addition. Uchida is Aoyama's best friend that behaves much more like a kid with his easily frightened nature. Hamamoto is another kid as smart as Aoyama who first discovers the giant water ball in the field and pursues to research it. And Suzuki is the typical bully that has some layers that would play a significant part later on. Maybe there is also Aoyama's dad that acts like his mentor and Hamamoto's dad who would later find out about the kid's research, but other than that, that's the entire cast right there. While some can seem typical and even close to ruining themselves, the characters ended up being well crafted enough to help make this movie feel heartwarming. There aren't many movies that I could say is filled with surprises, but this is a rare exception, especially when it's also really good at the same time. Penguin Highway is an impressive movie that takes complex scientific theories and presents them in a way that is both engaging and moving. With an enjoyable story that plays with an interesting mystery, great animation that gets better as the movie progresses, and likable characters that add some charm and heart, it delivers a unique experience that can leave audiences feel smart and feel good. If you're a fan of the Studio Ghibli films, then I recommend checking this one out. The sense of Japanese slice of life and magical whimsy can feel a bit familiar. Also, this might sound like a very niche group of people, but I recommend this as well to those who have an interest in the theory of relativity. I think it's safe to say that it's not every day when an animated film would have it be one of its main subjects. As animated penguin movies go, I could safely say that this is one of the better ones.
あの日に起きたいろんな現象、あまりにへんてこすぎて今の僕らには解明することが難しい。謎は深まるばかりです。